Welcome into another edition of In the Bonus. My name is Jorie Mickens, and again, this is an extension show of the Full Court Report NBA show hosted by myself, Jorie Mickens, like I mentioned a few seconds ago, as well as Justin Sadovi and Chris Tobias. And I know that I'm sure I've said in the past that every Monday there will be a new show up. But unfortunately, because of some unforeseen prior engagements and things of that matter, the show will not actually be released this coming Monday, but rather on Tuesday, most likely. So we do apologize for that. But I decided to stay up and watch a game between the Portland Trailblazers and the Golden State Warriors just to get some more content on the channel because, again, I believe that this weekend is going to be a very busy weekend for the three of us, so we will not be able to necessarily record our NBA show, that is the Full Court Report, at a normal time, and unfortunately will not be up on Monday. But again, that show should be up on Tuesday, and if not, maybe if we do it early enough, we could definitely get it up Monday afternoon. But it's looking like it's going to be up on Tuesday morning around the same time as it's posted on Mondays, which is at 8 a.m. So just be on the lookout for that. But back to this game. In the bonus, this is, I believe, the third edition of this that I'm doing. And I've definitely watched the Golden State Warriors play before. I mean, I believe they played on Christmas. Or maybe, no, I think they played on opening night. That was when I watched them against the Brooklyn Nets. I could be wrong, but I definitely seen these Warriors play a few times, but I had not seen the Portland Trailblazers play a game yet early on in this season, and I was pretty pleasantly surprised with how well the Blazers looked. So they obviously won this game 123-98. So a big blowout win here for the Portland Trailblazers, but I do have a lot of notes to get into, so we could talk about that. I guess before we even get into anything, just want to wish everyone a happy new year. It is now 2021, and I just hope that everyone is remaining safe and everyone can set their New Year's resolutions and try and fill those New Year's resolutions. And yeah, it should be a hopefully a better year than what 2020 was. But anyway, the notes for this game I have, I guess first off, Draymond Green returned to the lineup for the Golden State Warriors after missing the start of this season and only playing a career low last season, 43 games for the Warriors in that injury-riddled season for them. Obviously, a little injury-riddled again now that Klay Thompson is out again, unfortunately. So another somewhat injury-riddled season for the Warriors, but it was good to see Draymond back in the lineup for the Warriors, that is. So in terms of the game, though, the Blazers, they started the game very strong. They made 5 of their first 6 threes. And in that first quarter, CJ McCollum was on a different planet. He had 16 points in the first quarter, shooting 4 or 5 from 3. He was outstanding, and he's been outstanding, really, to start this entire season. Entering this game against the Warriors, he's averaging 28 points and 6.3 assists while shooting 47.8% from 3. So he's been absolutely on fire, and he had 28 points again in this game, shooting 4 of 11 from deep. So not exactly his average on the season, but still a great showing for CJ, especially in that first quarter. He was on fire, and he actually made a little bit of history tonight, CJ McCollum, that is, as he joined Stephen Curry, funnily enough, against his opponent in this game, as the only players in NBA history to have 3 3-pointers in the first 5 games of an NBA season. So CJ McCollum, who's never made an All-Star team, which is strange, considering how good he's been throughout his entire career next to Damian Lillard. He is gunning for that All-Star spot in the Western Conference. It is a loaded conference, as always, but he definitely has his eyes set on making the All-Star game, I would imagine, because he's been outstanding to start the season. On the Warriors side, James Wiseman, he picked up some quick fouls in the early going of this game, so he was dealing with a little bit of foul trouble in this one. Defending Nurkic, who I believe is really one of the most underrated centers in the league. He didn't have a great game in this one. That is Nurkic. He only had 8 points and 8 rebounds. But he was really taking it to Wiseman and the Warriors' bigs in this one early on. I think Portland wanted to get him going in the beginning stages of this game just to, again, get him going because he has not had the best start to this season. Entering this game, he was averaging just 9.8 points per game and 7.5 rebounds. And we've seen in the past that he can be a much more dominant player than that. I believe before his injury-riddled season last year, he averaged 15.6 points per game and 10.4 rebounds per game. So a really solid showing for him about 2 years ago, I believe. So we know that Jusuf Nurkic can be a very reliable center, but he just needs to get going. I think, again, it's probably in terms of conditioning and just finding his footing yet again, because he did return a little bit late. If you remember, heading into the bubble, he was just coming off the injury and still trying to find his footing. And then the shortened offseason certainly doesn't help. So I think it's going to be some time before we see him back to normal, but I think especially he could be an X factor for this team if he can get back to what he was a few years ago. But in terms of the Warriors bigs, I mean, outside of James Wiseman, they don't really have a lot of size on this team. Their backup center, Kevon Looney, is pretty undersized for a center at just 6'9". And again, Nurkic took advantage of that, especially when Wiseman picked up those 2 quick fouls I saw. The Warriors, they have a lot of holes on this roster, and I have an interesting take that I could get into about the Warriors. But this is even with Draymond Green returning to the lineup, it was still just out of shape, out of sorts. The team just looks out of sorts, and I think they just need to make some roster moves to really unleash the potential for this team, because they do have talented players. To say Steph Curry isn't one of the best point guards in the league would be ridiculous. He is. He's definitely one of the best point guards of this entire generation of point guards. He's really one of the most influential players of the past couple of years in the NBA, with the whole three-point movement and being able to stretch the floor as far as he can. He's been a special player, and he still has a lot left in the tank, especially somewhat resting last season with all the injuries that the Warriors were suffering. I think he's fresh for the first time in quite some time, given that the Warriors were constantly in the NBA Finals, constantly making deep playoff runs, and Stephen Curry not getting a lot of rest in any of those runs. They also have, again, James Wiseman, who I really like, and I was somewhat low on coming into the draft. I must have just not watched enough film of his. I mean, he didn't really have that much film, given that he only played, I believe, 3 games at Memphis when he was in college. So not a lot of film there, but I really like what I've seen from him early on. I just see signs of greatness from him. He's got great length. Athleticism is off the charts. And if he can continue to, he's shown signs of a nice jump shot. I think the form is a little wanky, but I think as time goes on and his body matures, because I think he does need to get stronger, I believe, he's going to be a very solid player in the NBA. Kelly Oubre, who has started the season pretty poorly for the Warriors, he's a solid player. I mean, he was great for the Phoenix Suns last year, and I think it's only a matter of time before he really hits his stride. Andrew Wiggins, the former number 1 overall pick, he is obviously a solid player as well. And I just think this team needs to reinvent themselves. And I think they should do that by trading for a point guard. I know what you're saying. That's the stupidest thing that you could say. I was just saying how Stephen Curry is one of the best point guards in the league. But just watching this game, in the times that Stephen Curry didn't have the ball in his hands, obviously off the ball, that's when he was really the most effective. And I think we've seen that in the past couple of years with the Warriors, is that they had other shot creators on this team. Klay Thompson, obviously, he doesn't need the ball to be super efficient on the offensive end. As we've seen, he can put up points in a matter of seconds because of how deadly his jump shot is. But that's another player that the defense needs to put attention on. And then obviously when you have a player like Kevin Durant on the team who draws so much attention offensively, it just makes life easier for Steph Curry. And I think if the Warriors want to get back to that in some kind of sense, I do think that they need to trade for or just find a point guard, put him in the lineup next to Stephen Curry, and let Steph Curry get some off-ball action rather than constantly having to dominate the ball and create for himself. Because it's as great as he is, he's never really been a guy who can just like Damian Lillard, for example, in this game. Damian Lillard, he would get a screen from maybe Nurkic or even Carmelo or whoever any of the bigs were for Portland, and he would just pull up from three, swoosh, goes in every time. Or he would drive into the lane and have some crazy reverse layup. Damian Lillard is an elite shot maker. He can score from literally anywhere on the floor. And so can Steph Curry. But I think Steph Curry is even better when someone else is setting the table for him. And I think if the Warriors really want to unleash Stephen Curry, I think they need to trade for someone who can do that for him. I don't know who that player is exactly, but I think if they get another facilitator in that starting lineup, move Steph Curry to somewhat of the off-ball role, and then move Andrew Wiggins to the bench. I think he's the one that needs to come off the bench for this team. Have Kelly Oubre play the 3, Draymond Green play the 4, of course, and then James Wiseman at the 5. I think you would have a really, really solid starting lineup at that point. But that's obviously a big ask for this organization, as they are probably not looking to make too many moves. If this team is not going to work, they expect Klay Thompson to come back next season. They don't want to completely reinvent themselves and not have a place for Klay Thompson to come back next season. But that's just my 2 cents on this issue in Golden State. Maybe this just isn't their season. That could also be the case. And again, we could see them in the lottery pick up a really solid young player in what seems to be a very loaded NBA draft and potentially just build and start a youth movement, start over. I mean, they already have James Wiseman, who looks to be a really solid centerpiece for them moving forward. And who knows? We'll see what happens with this team in the future. But this really was not a good showing for the Warriors. And in all the games that I've seen, it's weird because watching them in the past couple of years, they've always had the most dynamic offenses. Nobody could seem to stop them on offense. And now it seems like they can't even score. They can't even buy a bucket. There were times where it seemed like they just missed shot after shot after shot. I mean, they shot just 39% from the field in this game and 20% from three. Does that sound like a Golden State Warriors team to you? Not to me. Not at all. But I don't want to harp too much on the Warriors. I know they have a lot of issues with injuries and things like that. And this is a brand new system and a brand new, not a brand new system, but a brand new team, really. And it's going to take some time. And this might just not be their season. But in terms of the Blazers, I guess, a team that I haven't seen this season, they played very well. And I can touch on a few players that I saw in this game. 2 players in their starting lineup who I very much like, who they acquired in the offseason, that being Robert Covington, who had a solid game for them, 8 points, 11 rebounds. He's just great on the defensive end. I love his length. He's versatile on the defensive end. There was one play where he got a chase down block on Brad Wanamaker, and the Warriors collected the offensive rebound, and he got out and contested an Andrew Wiggins 3 on the perimeter. It just goes to show how much ground he can cover defensively. So I think that was a very solid pickup for the Warriors. He might not light up the box score, but he's going to play solid defense. He's going to play great defense for this team, and I think that's certainly going to help them a lot. And he's a good counterpart to Carmelo Anthony, who's another player I could mention, who actually made history tonight himself. I mentioned earlier that CJ McCollum made history, but Carmelo Anthony moved into 14th all-time on the NBA scoring list, passing Tim Duncan with a three-pointer that he made late in the game. And Carmelo Anthony, you could say so much about Carmelo Anthony, but I think the one thing that you should say about is that he never gave up, even though everyone gave up on him. And I think people can just learn from that lesson. Bet on yourself. Never give up. Do what you love. Just know that someone's going to give you an opportunity at one point. So just continue to work hard, and people will find you. Don't worry. If anything, just keep grinding. That's all you can say. But this was a really good game, I think, for the Blazers, a very promising game for them. Damian Lillard had a phenomenal game in this one, 34 points, 8 assists, 4 rebounds. The Blazers are going to be a scary team in the Western Conference if everyone can get clicking. I think it's going to ride again on Nurkic. And a player who I love, Gary Trent Jr., he wasn't even playing in this game. He's a person that I picked to be potentially the sixth man of the year. And funnily enough, Carmelo Anthony has been really solid off the bench for Portland, and he can wind up winning sixth man of the year. Maybe not, but that would be funny to see that if Carmelo ended up winning that award. But this team, I think, has another – they have yet to reach their ceiling, I think. This team is still trying to figure each other out, and they look great to start the season. And if I'm the rest of the Western Conference, I'm definitely going to have my eyes on this team once the regular season nears the end. And as they move into the playoffs, Portland could be a team that makes a lot of noise. Beware of the Portland Trailblazers. But that's really all the notes that I have for this game. It was a fun watch, I guess. It was really cool to see Carmelo make history. Carmelo, one of the most entertaining players of the past 15 years or so. So it was really cool to see that. And there was a cool matchup between Damian Lillard and Steph Curry as well. And yeah, it was a good game. And for the Full Court Report NBA show, that is not going to be up on Monday, unfortunately, because of some prior engagements that the three of us all have to take care of. But it will be up on Tuesday, and you're definitely going to want to listen into that because it's going to be an interesting one. A lot of news has been coming out from the NBA this past week, so we're going to dive a lot into everything that's happened. But that's going to wrap up another edition of In the Bonus. Thank you so much for listening. Again, the Portland Trailblazers defeating the Golden State Warriors in this one, 123-98. And again, thank you so much for listening to another edition of In the Bonus. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Please leave comments and like this video, and make sure to subscribe to this channel for all the NBA content you could ask for. Thank you so much for listening, guys. Happy New Year. Stay safe out there, and thank you for listening.